backwards here. Okay, working how? Working backwards. So you might say, we can work backwards? Yeah, we can work backwards. What do I mean? Do you guys know that we started with this example, and it's my favorite example. They say IQ scores are what now? Normally distributed. Okay, so the second they say that, ladies and gentlemen, is your random variable x. So in other words, x equals what? Your IQ score. They're going to always give us the mean. You say, what's the mean here? 100. And they're going to always give us the standard deviation, and that's 15. So the mean here will be 100. Standard deviation will be what? 15. Okay, so that's going to be given here for us. So now, look at what the question is. They're going to say, what IQ score is needed to be considered a what? A genius, ladies and gentlemen. Does anybody know? What's the definition of a genius? The definition is somebody who has an IQ score that's in the what? Top 40%. So take a look at this, ladies and gentlemen. You're a genius if your IQ is in the top, sorry, not 40%, top 4%. That's the definition of being a genius. And this is a picture of what we call a right what? A right tail. It's supposed to be a right tail. We need to find now the value of x associated with the top 4%. All right, now I'm going to actually say something to you guys. You may have forgotten, but I haven't. You guys know what this means to the left there? What does that mean? Do you guys know that that's P what? 96? Meaning 96% of the bell is shaded to the left of that value of x. It's your right tail. And top 4%, by the way, is 0.4. Okay? So really look at this picture because that's what they're asking. What IQ score do you need to be considered a what? A genius. Do we have any geniuses in the room? Maybe. So you might say, Mr. Judge, how do we do this? You're going to use, ladies and gentlemen, the TI. Okay? So you say, what do we do by the TI here? Your TI calculator. You're going to use the function called inverse what? Norm. Inverse norm for the TI calculator. So let's go there. You say, okay, how do you get there? It's still in this distribution list. But you guys know, so you go second distribution. Inverse norm is number 3 on the list. That's 3. And then notice what you have to do for inverse norm. We need area, and then you read down mu and sigma. You're going to have to fill that in. You already know what mu is. It's 100. Sigma's 15. But what kind of tail is this picture in if I put the area? We're going to have to describe the right tail here. Okay, maybe I'm using the wrong colors. Genius, top 4%. This is the area they're talking about. It's a right what? A right tail. So enter that 4%. Scroll down to what? The right tail. It's already there. Oh, we forgot the mean. What's the mean? 100. What's your standard deviation? 15. Good. You got to enter that. And now the tail is a right tail. Hit paste. and approximate this to the whole number. What is this to a whole number? Do you guys know? Isn't that 120 what? 6? So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the IQ score you need to be considered a what? Genius. So it's working backwards. You're using the inverse norm key. You're trying to find that X value now. So you need at least 126 IQ. Okay, now in my earlier class, by the way, some of my students complained. What did they complain about? Does anybody have a calculator that does not have that left tail and right tail? Oh, some of you do? Okay, all right. So here's what I'm going to do now. So for some of you guys that don't have left, right, center, you're going to have to use what we call the default. So you might say, what in the world is a default? Well, you see the X value that they're looking for here, right here, this X value? 96% of the bell is to the left of that X value. Do you guys agree? If you're talking top 4%, that means 96% is to the left. The complement. Well, that's the default. So you're going to need to know this. Area to the left is 0.96, which means 96%. Okay. So when I go to this TI, we're going to do what? We're going to shift modes to TI-84 plus. Second distribution. Still number 3, inverse norm. And now this is what you guys have. Is that true? And so you put the 96% area to the left. Look at that earlier today. Mean is 100, standard deviation is 15. Paste that in, and ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly the same answer you guys got before. Approximated to the whole number, we get 126. And that's what I put here. Well, I didn't put that there, but okay. We put here, you can say X is going to be approximately 126. And that's the same X value you have down here, ladies and gentlemen. So this is how you use your TI to work backwards, where you're finding the number or the value of X now given a percentage. Top 4%. Yes?
So you use the percentage on the opposite side of the scale?
It depends on the question, and you'll see the different questions. Like, you're going to use the inverse norm to really work backwards, and it depends on the question. Top is always a right tail. We're going to see bottom, and that's going to be a left tail. All right? Okay, now, does anybody, my other class, they couldn't believe this. Do you guys know that there are people with IQ scores that are in the top 4%? Okay, you guys see this here? And these are people who are eligible for what's known as Mensa membership. Mensa membership. These are the geniuses of the geniuses. What's the definition of Mensa? Someone who has an IQ, excuse me, in the top 2%. So if your IQ is in the top 2%, guess what? You could belong to what? Mensa. All right? Okay. So what do we say top was always? A right what? Yeah, it's a right tail. Do you guys happen to know, how do you represent 2%? 0.02? Okay, now, that means the complement, the top 2% is really the same as the 98th percentile, where 98% of the data is behind you. Okay? So they're saying this is 98 what? Percent. So some of you guys have the default calculator. We'll do both. You're going to use that default. I'm going to use the right tail, though, because I spent a little money to get the new calculator. And what that means is I have left tail, right tail options. Second distribution, inverse what? Norm. Okay. Right tail is 2%, 0.02. It is still, notice this. Yeah. The mean is 100, standard deviation is 15. So what I'm saying here is I can move this anywhere I want. It's on the right tail. Leave it there. Scroll down and paste. Ladies and gentlemen, what's your IQ score? 131. So X is going to be approximately what? 131. So that's the IQ score you need to try to get into the group called Mensa. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about Mensa. I know people, they go, "Really, Mr. Judge, there is a Mensa organization?" Yeah. Let me share that with you guys. These are people who are super what? They're super smart. Okay, you go, what is Mensa? This is Mensa. When did Mensa begin? Who started it and why, right? What do they want to do? There's a lot of Mensa people in 90 countries to identify and foster human intelligence for the benefit of humanity. So they're going to use their brain power for the benefit of who? Humanity. These are super smart people. Okay. And what do they also want to do? To encourage research into the nature, characteristic, and uses of intelligence. Okay. To provide a stimulating intellectual and social environment for its members. So these are people that want to have a stimulating environment. They get together, they hang out, they talk about Mensa things, whatever. And these are people that what? Super smart people. You need to have an IQ in the top what? 2%. Okay, you with me on that? You guys okay with that idea? My other class didn't believe it. They're like, really? Yeah, these are Mensa people. They come from all walks of life. Super smart people. Isn't that amazing? Did you guys know that? You didn't know that. These are super smart people. And in fact, you say, well, how do I become a member? Well, you got to take your IQ test, and then you got to see if you're a Mensa member. See if it's high enough. What do you got to do? Get at least 131. Should we have you guys take an IQ test? Huh? You say no. I think on the website they have an IQ test. Yeah.
I just searched up Elon is a little bit smarter than
What's Elon's IQ? Is his IQ on online?
yeah, they said it was 155.
155? Are you serious? Elon has an IQ of 155. Let's see. Can Elon belong to Mensa? Sure. What IQ do you have to have? At least 131. 131 or higher. So Elon Musk can actually belong into what? Mensa.
He's probably not in it. Probably just for his job.
I don't know. He has a choice. He can join if he wants. He's eligible.
Way eligible.
Yeah, exactly. Way eligible is the yes. All right, now, because my other class, they were laughing at Mensa people. They're like, really? They sound like they're snobs and blah blah blah. Why do they need to get together? I'm like, because they're super smart people. They want to hang out.
They want to discuss theories.
They want to talk to each other about different things, different ideas. right?
That's how you evolve, not just by saying what.
I don't know. They're not on social media, maybe. Maybe they are. Maybe you got to look on Instagram and Facebook. Hey, Mensa members, see what happens. Maybe they're there too.
Yeah, but then how much could you really rely on social media?
I don't think you can, but I think social media is the worst.
Because you could say, oh, who's a part of Mensa, and people are gonna be like, they either take it the wrong way, or Spanish,
Yeah.
or they know what it is.
I don't know. I think it's like I said, it's interesting to me. You know, there's a story by the way. I give you guys a quick story about Mensa. When I first learned about Mensa membership and this whole idea, I remember I was a kid. There was a story about this couple, right? They met at a Mensa meeting. So what they do is they join this club. You got to have a high IQ to get in, so you join the club. And what happens with men and women, sometimes they start to date, I guess. And you had a couple, a man and a woman at Mensa. They met, they had a baby. What do you think happened with the baby?
Maybe it was smart.
The baby was super smart.
Well, smarter than average.
Oh, yes, because the baby was able to read before the baby was able to talk. And you go, how can somebody be able to read before they can talk? Well, as soon as they start talking, they're pointing out what they're reading. And you go, oh my God, you must have been able to read before you can talk. So this couple gave birth to a super smart baby. So the next time you guys are out that club dancing and you meet that girl or you meet that guy, right, before you ask them to dance, what do you want to ask them for? Say, can I see your Mensa card? You guys know what I mean? You may want to ask for a Mensa card so you can see what's going on there. And a credit check. Those are some two things you might want to do, right? Anyway, this reminds me of a movie, this next situation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a term that used to be used years ago. It's actually, and it's no longer in use. It's called feeble what? Minded. I did look this up. They want to know what IQ score separates the people who are what? Feeble-minded from everybody else. Now, what does it mean to be feeble-minded? You are not in the top, percentage. You're in the what? The bottom. Okay, these are IQ scores, and that was a real term. I don't believe the term is no longer in use. Okay? That term is no longer in use, by the way, feeble-minded. Doesn't that sound horrible? That reminds me of Forrest Gump. You guys remember Forrest Gump? That's what it reminds me of. So, okay, feeble-minded, whatever, fine. That's in the bottom 2%. And again, I want to put this in our notes. This is really a left what? Tail. Do you guys see a left tail there? And how do you write 2%? Is that 0.02? So you have a left tail at 2%. It's the bottom. That's the definition of being what's called feeble-minded. Okay, they want to know, what IQ score do you need? What's the value of X, right? So you might say, Mr. Judge, how do I do this? Well, go to your TI now. You're going to go to the inverse norm key again. So you're going to hit your distribution, second distribution, inverse norm. And how do you write? You get your 2%. And then mean is 100, standard deviation is 15. Left, hit enter. Paste that in, ladies and gentlemen. This is now a left tail test. What's the IQ score? So you hit left for left tail. So that IQ is 69 to the nearest whole number. Okay. So you can say, is X approximately 69? Yeah, you could do that either way. And so if your IQ is is 69 or below, no more than 69, you're considered what? Feeble-minded. So Forrest Gump's IQ was somewhere where? Over here. You guys okay with that? So, reminds me of that movie, Forrest Gump. It's a horrible phrase, feeble-minded, to be feeble. But also, what if you have the default? Do you guys notice about the default? What's interesting about the default? Isn't that the same procedure you would have to use for the default? Right? You just enter the 2%. Because the default is exactly what you see here. So if I change the mode in my TI, I'm going to change it, clear that out. Second distribution, inverse norm, 2%, mu is 100, standard deviations 15, paste that in. Ladies and gentlemen, you get that 69 again. And there you go. And that's kind of the information I put here in the notes even. Use the inverse norm key. I put that all in the notes. All right? All right. Now, I even put the top 4%. We did that. 126. Top 2% Mensa membership. We did that. We did the feeble-minded one. Bottom 2%. X is going to be. We did that. It's in the notes. My $1 million notes. Hopefully, Elon Musk with his IQ of 155 buys my notes. You guys know what I mean? But I want to share with you guys some important common questions about working backwards. Okay, so we do have common questions. Working backwards. Okay, now you say, well, how do I work backwards? Well, they may want an IQ score that's now in the top what? Yeah. Now, top 10% is really the 90th percentile. You guys remember that? So I said, this is the top 10%, right? It's a right tail. Top 10% is a right tail. 10% is 0.10. So those are all the things you want to know when you deal with that question of the top 10%. And that is, by the way, P90. So you guys actually had a test on that, right? P90, the 90th percentile. So 90% of the bell is to the left of this X value, so you guys know. Now that helps those people who have the what? The default calculator, so that helps you guys. So I'm going to put both of that information here for you so you can compare and contrast. 90% and 10% are complements. We're going to answer that question by using the TI, and then I pointed out to people that this is also the same as D9, the 9th decile, because P90 is D what? 9 by definition. So you guys remember these here. So we're going to actually try that out in our TI. Okay, let's clear that out. So, okay, TI, let's do it both ways, okay? Second distribution. What's the function today we learned? Inverse norm. So 10% is 0.10. This is a right tail, so I'm going to go all the way to the right and hit enter. Okay, so double check 10% right tail. That's what I'm doing. Let's see what we end up with. Paste that in. What's the IQ score? 119. So, ladies and gentlemen, that number over here is 119. X is approximately 119. So what if you had the default? Because some of you guys have that. Let me share with you guys if you have that default, right? You're going to now use the 90%, right? Second distribution, inverse norm, area to the left is 90%. Is that right? Let's double check. Area to the left of that X value is 90%, okay? So because of that, you put the 90%. There is no left, right, center. We're using the default. Sure enough, don't you get 119? Wow, that's amazing. So either way, ladies and gentlemen, this is how you handle the top what? 10%. All right, we'll get through this worksheet. We'll let you guys get out early today so you can celebrate your go trick-or-treating early. How's that? Get ready for your trick-or-treating, you guys. All right? That's all right. I go trick-or-treating.
Hey, can't complain. The candy's free. Huh?
The candy's free. The dentist bill is not.
True.
It's horrible.
Personally, I only go because some of my neighbors give away popcorn and hot dogs.
They give away hot dogs?
There's people that give like some crazy stuff.
Yeah, they give away some crazy stuff.
You guys better be careful. I never heard anybody give hot dogs.
Well, they
Where's your neighbors? Where do you live?
in Rosemead.
Rosemead? They give out hot dogs? They barbecue?
No, not really.
No, where they microwave those hot dogs and say, here you go, have a hot dog, kid.
Well, they cook it like in front of people, so
Oh, they do?
make sure, and they open the package right in front of them. That way,
Good for you guys. I never heard that though. Hot dog. How about a nice chorizo burrito? I'm thinking of my mother-in-law. She's always with those chorizo burritos in the morning. You guys know what I mean? There's only so much chorizo you can eat, I think. Shh, don't tell my mother-in-law.
until you end up like chorizo from Coco.
I think so. Are you guys pretty much done with the chorizo burrito? You know what I mean? No, you're okay still? You'll have a nice chorizo burrito in the morning?
We don't make chorizo as often, but every once in a while.
Yeah, I can only do it like maybe one day a week if I'm at most 2 days.
Or if I have any leftovers.
You know, and then when I go camping, you know what I have in the morning? My mother-in-law comes, she makes her chorizo burritos. Even camping, even the bears get to smell the chorizo burritos. Anyway, top 5%. Isn't that P95? All right, top 5%, ladies and gentlemen, is a right tail. Anything top is a right what? Tail. And then 5%, you got to write that down. Okay? So I want you guys to know anything top is a what? Right tail of 5%. So let's see. So second distribution, inverse what? Norm. 5% is to the right. Isn't that a right tail? And it's already set to the right, so I'm happy about that. Maybe you guys want to scroll in. I don't know. Should you scroll in, people get a good view. Okay, it's a right tail. Hit enter, and what's this as a whole number?
124.
Well, 124.6, that makes it 120 what? 125, ladies and gentlemen. You guys okay with that one? There it is. Here's your answer. So to be in the top 5%, you need to have an IQ that's at least 125. So Elon Musk still is there. But what if you guys have the default, right? You say, what does that mean? Well, top 5% is the same as the 95th percentile. And that means 95% of the data is behind that 5%. So in your default calculator, 95% is going to be point what? 95. You're going to use the default. Aren't those complements? 95%, 5%? So I'm going to change the mode. Clear that out. Second distribution, inverse norm is working backwards, inverse norm. Now I change the area to 95% because it doesn't give me the choice of left tail, right tail. Paste that in, and sure enough, I do get the same exact what? Answer. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. It's 125 still. You guys see that there? So either calculator that you guys use would be good for that. And I do have that in the notes as well, in case you said, wow. We have that in the notes. Okay, you guys with me on that one? This is how you handle top 5%. Now, I went down to the top 1%. Top 1% means the 99th percentile. That's the same question. You say, why? Because top 1% is a right tail. And then 1% is 0.0 what? 1. Right tail, 1%. There's that X value. We want to find what that is. So we're going to change modes. Clear that out. Go to second distribution, inverse norm, the third one. Isn't 1% 0.01 now? And that's a right tail. Is that right? A right tail? So we're already set on the right tail there, right? Okay, what is this going to be to the nearest whole number? 135. So X is approximately 100 and what? 35. And that's exactly what I put down here. In your notes, you guys can review those $1 million notes. But if you had the other calculator and you need to use the default, right? Area to the left of that value, we already said that this is the 99th percentile, right? Which means 99% of the data is behind that number. So in the default mode, .99, 99%, okay? That's the default. So those of you guys that have that calculator, second distribution, inverse norm, 0.99, okay? You should get the same answer of about 135. So double check. Isn't that still 135? So that's the same. Just you guys just happen to have the default. You don't have a choice but to use the area to the left. So, okay. Now consider what happens with the what? With the bottom 10%, okay? Bottom 10% is the same as the 10th percentile or the first decile. Because the bottom 10% means 10% of the data is behind that, and that's the definition of D1 as well. So we're going to write this down in our notes. Bottom 10% is a left what? Tail situation, and 10% is 0.10. Okay, you guys are looking at a picture and it's worth 1,000 words. Left tail. But you guys want to know something that's interesting about the bottom language? What's so interesting about bottom? You guys know what's interesting about the bottom? Isn't that the same as the default? Because it's area to the left of that X value, that's the default. So it doesn't matter. I'll do it with both calculators. Change the mode, do it with the first one. Second distribution, inverse norm, 0.10. I have to change the tail to the left. Is that true? That's a left tail. And then we're going to paste this in. And ladies and gentlemen, we get 81. Is that true? So 81 is that value. You got to have an IQ that's no more than 81 to be in the the bottom 10% of IQ scores. Don't know what category that would be other than to call it bottom 10%. Now, you say, isn't that the same process as the default? Yes. Because when I go to the default now, I hit second distribution, inverse norm, 0.10, mean is 100, standard deviations 15, paste that in. Ladies and gentlemen, isn't that the same 81 again? So that's because the default is the same in the case of the bottom. So whether it's bottom 10%, bottom 5%, bottom 1%, and ladies and gentlemen, this is how we handle that. Right? What do you guys think? Right, let's try bottom what? 5%, which is the fifth percentile, by the way. So that's P5. So let's write down all the notes. 5% of the data. So bottom 5% is a left what? Tail, and 5% is 0.0 what? 0.05. Good. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. It's already the default. Same thing. So I'm just going to label that for you guys here. Because hopefully some of you guys go back and look at the notes. Bless you. Bless you. Anybody here go back and look at the videos? Good. That's why they're there, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's try this out. What do you guys think? I've heard in some classes the instructor doesn't even show them how to use a calculator. So are you kidding me? How do you teach the class? If you don't show people how to use the calculator. Oh my God, look at that. Is that crazy? Let's look at it. So you're going to say second distribution. What do we look for? Inverse norm. Good. We must have seen 20 examples. 5% is 0.05. Yes, it's a left tail because it's the bottom 5%. And what is that X value now? 75. So, ladies and gentlemen, as the nearest whole number, that's what you're looking for, 75. And I have that here as well as an answer. So you have to have an IQ no more than 75, ladies and gentlemen. Woo. Bottom what? 5%. We're almost there, ladies and gentlemen. We're almost there. We're almost getting ready for trick-or-treating here. And those hot dogs. Bottom 1% is like the one. That's actually the worst place to be. You guys know that? First percentile. You don't want to be there. That means 1% of the data is behind you. You don't want to be there. This is the picture. Bottom. That's a what kind of tail? That's a left tail. And then how do you write 1%? 0.01. And that also happens to be the what? Default. Okay, you're looking at that picture. So that's the default. Bottom is that default. Now, we're going to try it with both. Second distribution. Inverse norm, 1% is 0.1. Same mean and standard deviation, but this is a left tail. Hit that, enter. What's the value for X? 65, ladies and gentlemen. So this is 65 right here. Okay, and even if you said to me, I'd rather use the default, or that's my calculator, not that you'd rather. All right. Second distribution, inverse norm, 0.01. Paste that in, double check. Don't you get the same answer of 65? So remember, that's the default, and that's why I put here 65. Now, There's just a few more we have to do. You say, what do we need to remember? First quartile. Do you remember what the first quartile is? That's the 25th percentile. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to write that in our notes, right? Q1 is P what? 25. Do you guys remember that one? We're almost done. So, this is a left tail. This is like saying bottom 25%. Okay, that's just like saying bottom 25%. Left tail here, do you guys see the picture? 25% of the bell is shaded. And how do you write 25%?
0.25.
Good job. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. You're almost there. And if you're awake, isn't that again the what? Isn't that the default? So we're going to find the value that separates the first quartile from everybody else. It's going to be 90. There's your instructions as well. So let's try this out here.
You should do it on that one first.
You want to do it on that one first?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to clear that out. Second distribution, inverse norm, 0.25. Same mean, same standard deviation. Notice you get what? To the nearest whole number, isn't that going to be 90? So this is 90. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's actually what I said here when I said the score is 90. First quartile. Okay, and if you said, what I got the fancy calculator like you, or at least like what you have on this screen. So you say second distribution, inverse norm, again, 25%, but that's a left tail here, okay? And notice you get 90 again, so it's the same here. That's a left tail, so either way, and you did get the 90 for both. There's your instructions. And now, the final question before. Do you guys happen to know what the third quartile is by definition? Q3 equals P what? P75. Third quartile. And this is the picture of the third quartile. Now, I want to point out something to you guys that's important here. Right? The 25th percentile, that's the 75th percentile means 75% of the data is behind this number. But what does this mean here, over on this side? I'm going to change colors here.
The right side. Right there.
What's the right side? Yeah, the right tail has to be what? Good job. This is 25%, and that's a right what? Tail. This is what I want you guys to use here, okay? Where 25% is point what? 0.25. So if you had that calculator that I have, you say second distribution, inverse norm, it's still on 25%, but now it's what kind of tail? Switch it to left to right now, 25% right tail, and you get the answer, which is 110. So you might say, oh, okay. There's your 110. And I think even in the notes, I said people to do that, right? 110. If you did this 25% here in the notes, and notice we got the score of 110. But, and you did the right tail version here, okay? You guys see that there? But if you said, what do I do with the default? Well, area to the left of that number, that's the what?
The default number.
Yeah, 75%. You guys see that there? Area to the left of this number. So if you had the other calculator, we'll switch the mode. Clear that out. You say second distribution, inverse norm, 75%, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. Sure enough, what do we get? We get the same answer, don't we? Is it 110? It is. So, ladies and gentlemen, we spent a lot of time today working how? Backwards. Outstanding. This is the backwards what? Yeah, you're finding the X values now. So they're going to give you the percentage, top percent, bottom percent, first quartile, second quartile. They can even give you deciles. But this is how we handle working how? Backwards. So those notes are on my website. Right here, you say, where do I find those notes? It's right in here. Let me see if I can scroll out because, right? So it's the notes for working backwards right in here. I'll put that in the chat there for some people. Those of you guys who are at home. But I also want to remind people here that your homework for working backwards is here. Normal probability distribution working backwards. Bless you. And then, of course, there's the worksheet. Look at all these questions. Working backwards. And then you say, what if I get stuck? Do you guys have solutions? Yep.
I noticed sometimes for the solutions, the answer is different to what you get.
Double check. Show me if there's an error. Contact me on it in Canvas so I can fix it. I'll look it over. So if you guys find an error in any way, let me know. I'll look it up in Canvas, and then I'll fix it, and I'll let everybody know. Oh, there's an error in question 7 or whatever. But here we go. So you guys see, I did the instructions here for your solutions as well, right? So I did the solutions for you guys too. So you have solutions for the homework, and so we put this in the assignment section, homework 3. Edit. So you even have those solutions. So we're going to have here normal probability distribution working what? Backwards. You're going to do them what? All. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. And now it's time. We're going to let you guys go early so you can get started on your what? Trick-or-treating. Oh, yeah, your homework, I mean. Not trick-or-treating on your homework. Try not to scare those kids. If you want to scare them, show them your homework. And we'll see you guys on Thursday, okay? Take care and stay safe.